This past Friday, we heard direct quotes from Prince Harry about what happened in the private hearings during his RAVEC appeal. This is from the Telegraph. Prince Harry, police protection was withdrawn to trap me. Here's the subhead. Duke tells the Telegraph his, quote, worst fears have been confirmed, end quote, by secret evidence heard in court over security. Note the part that's in quotations in a good article that will be attributed to someone in the piece, and it is to Prince Harry. In fact, this headline, this subhead, does a very good job of summing up what the piece is about. Not surprised that if Prince Harry is going to talk to anyone at the Telegraph, he'll talk to Victoria Ward. First sentence. The Duke of Sussex believes his police protection was withdrawn in an effort to prevent him and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, from leaving Britain to start a new life. Considering the other forms of, quite frankly, financial abuse that we've seen to try to get the couple to stay, this would not shock me. First, I want to remind people of something. I've seen a lot of people misunderstanding what this appeal was about. Prince Harry's appeal over RAVEC's decision has to do with the legal procedure. This is not a case that's going to restore his security tomorrow. This was a case that the Court of Appeal agreed to hear because they felt that Prince Harry had a compelling enough case to try and prove why he believed that the lower court's decision to uphold the RAVEC decision when they decided to pull Prince Harry's security in February of 2020 was by the book. Another phrase you might have heard a lot last week is bespoke agreement. RAVEC decided that instead of applying the same practice that they do to everyone else when it comes to security, including an RMB or a risk assessment, they would give Prince Harry a bespoke agreement since he was no longer a working royal. Which, there's one argument that it doesn't matter if he's working royal or not, he's still a target. The other is, if working royal matters so much, then why did RAVEC decide to continue Prince Andrew's security after he was basically forced by the public to step down from his duties? Yes, that changed around 2022, but then his brother Charles started to pick up the bill. We're going to get into that later. Another one of Harry's arguments is that bespoke doesn't mean better. Back to the article, quote, a bespoke process created for the Duke and his family requires them to give 30 days notice of any plans to travel to the UK, with each visit then assessed on its merits before a decision is made on whether to grant protection. Because, you know, famously, anyone that would want to harm the couple would obviously be like, oh, wait, they're coming here for a polo event? Never mind. I'm sorry. I thought it was something else. Plus, a 30 days notice, so 30 extra days for this information to leak out to the media about their planned trip. As we know, RAVEC is made up of members of the royal household. Here's another quote from the Duke. People would be shocked by what's being held back, he said, adding that his worst fears have been confirmed by the whole legal discourse in this case, and that's really sad. Let's get into what he might be talking about, and for that, we need to go back to the Sandringham Summit. Another thing Prince Harry takes issue with was one of the people who was in RAVEC to help make the decision to pull Prince Harry's royal security. That man is Sir Edward Young, the former private secretary to Queen Elizabeth II. You read Spare, you remember he was a pretty busy part of that meeting. In January of 2020, Prince Harry was blindsided to learn that it was an in or out situation. That's what was being presented from Sir Edward Young, Prince William's then private secretary, Simon Case. Prince William obviously was also there, and then Prince Charles, whose private secretary is Clive Alderton. There will be no half in, half out. You can't go live in a Commonwealth country. You're going to stay or you can go, because they expected Harry to blink, but he didn't blink. And then just 1 month later, despite the fact that they had agreed to a transitional 1-year period for the Duke and Duchess to get on their feet and get settled, RAVEC just pulls Harry's royal security. Here's a little video.
I never thought that I would have my security removed because I was born into this position. I inherited the risk. So that was a shock to me. That was what completely changed the whole plan. Not
So
that we had a
you,
plan.
as Prince Harry, are going to have your security removed.
Yeah, and I even wrote letters to his family saying, please, it's very clear the protection of me or Archie is not a priority. I accept that. That is fine. Please keep my husband safe. I see the death threats. I see the racist propaganda. Please keep him safe. Please don't pull his security and announce to the world when he and we are most vulnerable.
At that time, they are in Canada. They're in an area where they're pretty undercover, and then suddenly they have lost their royal security and reporters descend. Their location is compromised. They have nowhere to go. I don't know what kind of money they have, because the other thing is, then Prince Charles was going to give them £700,000. According to reporting from Byline Times, that was rescinded, unless they agreed to drop Christian Jones's name, who worked in Palace Comms for the Sussexes and the Wales and would stay on for Prince William, from a suit alleging a cash for leak scandal involving information about the Duchess of Sussex, which, if you pull all the threads, also eventually involved the person who broke the scoop about Meghan and Harry leaving the UK to begin with. It was because of Tyler Perry, who said, come use my house. It's secure. There's security. You will be safe. You can regroup. That appears to be the saving grace. Make no mistake, that was a very short, intentional timeline. And there was another claim in that video about the threats, the harassment, etc., which some people have seemed to have forgotten, but people are in jail because of this. Here's one case. Teenage neo-Nazis jailed over terror offenses related to Meghan, Archie, and Harry. This was 6 months or so before they leave. July of 2023, neo-Nazi podcast hosts who targeted Harry and Meghan's son Archie convicted of terror offenses. Who can forget the anthrax scare? Or a host of other threats, which according to the then terror chief at the time, were very real and incredibly disgusting. So for RAVEC to act like suddenly because they're no longer working royals, the threat against them is any less, or that his father, the king, couldn't step in this piece it says royal sources insist that it's, quote, wholly inappropriate for the monarch to intervene. But like, your private secretary sits on the committee. I don't know, man. Kind of seems like we use our privilege and our power when it suits us, and I'm kind of confused why it doesn't suit you when it's involving your son, your daughter-in-law, and your grandchildren. Because I know someone's gonna say this, not that anyone has listened this far. Prince Harry's offered to pay for the security. Now, there's a whole other discussion one can have about paying for police protection. Anyway, some other things that we learned in this article are when we can expect a decision. Sometime after Easter is what the Telegraph is reporting. Win or lose, it doesn't mean that RAVEC will be forced to change their policy. As we've learned, though, from Harry's other legal cases involving publishers, yes, change is a big part of it, but it's also about getting the information out there, getting it into record. And maybe some of it is just seeing for himself what exactly happened, even if it confirms possibly his worst fears.